Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to, you ready for this? St. Peter in Chains. And that's not the name of the town, that's the name of the church. St. Peter in Ketten in German, and it's in the Westerwald town of Montabaur. I bet you've never heard of Montabaur before, but this church has a new organ, and that's what I want to show you tonight. So what's a new organ? What does that actually mean? Well, this is literally a new organ. It's actually a bit older than I thought it was. The organ's been in the church now for 5 years, and I personally can't believe that because I was involved in the installation of this organ in this church. I moved from Cologne to Montabaur in 2014. And at around the same time, I started helping out here in the church on the organ. And the old organ was an absolute disaster. It was falling apart. From the 30-something stops it had, only about 18 of them worked. From those 18 stops, only about 30 notes per stop were actually working. The thing was falling apart. It was very difficult to play. You didn't know what was going to happen. It was like a sort of a lottery. You sort of switched the organ on and you didn't know what was going to work and what wasn't going to work. So it really was necessary that something was done here in the church. And they got various quotes from various organ builders. You know, shall we restore the old organ or shall we just buy a new organ? And for basically the same money, the same amount of cash, it was going to be possible to put a brand new organ in the church. So of course that's what they did. And I have a personal connection to this organ. I played at its introduction in the church, its opening services. And I accompanied the choir and played other various bits and pieces. And when the organ was being installed, I was here regularly, you know, throughout the day, watching the builders and sometimes helping them. And also, when the guy came to voice the organ, I was rather lucky to be there on the day that he voiced a couple of important stops, and he constantly asked for my opinion, and they were sort of included in those stops. So it was a sort of a bit of a personal touch on this organ as well. So I can't believe it's been 5 years, and it's still as wonderful as it was 5 years ago. It still looks as new and shiny as it did then, so it's been very well looked after. It's had a fair bit of playing since then, of course. There are regular concerts, and I'm quite glad to be back here tonight to be able to show the organ to you. Let's have a closer look. It's, as you can see, a 3-manual organ. It's got, the bottom manual is this one here, the Ruck positive. Those are the pipes behind the organist. You can't really see in there, but there are pipes in there, take it from me. The Hauptwerk, the grate, in the middle, and then the swell up on top. So it's not the French layout with the grate on the lower manual and everything else above it. So we've got the Hauptwerk in the middle and everything around it. It's a mechanical action organ, which means the connections between the keys and the pipes. If we have a quick look up to the pipes, please. Pipes on the left and on the right of the organist. Look how clean and shiny they are. Yep, it's still a new organ. Rather lovely. And like I said, we have a mechanical connection between the keys and the pipes, but the stop action and the couplers are electronically controlled, as is, of course, the sequencer and all the sort of registration aids that we have here. So it's the best of both worlds. Again, we've got the comfort and what am I going to call it? The sort of musicality of a mechanical action, yeah. So we can control how the pipes speak, but we've got all the creature comforts of the electronics around to help us. Something that is rather French in style on this organ is the way the stops are laid out in these sort of rows to the left and the right of the organist. I love it because you just know exactly where everything is without, you know, having to look, basically. On the left side of the organist, you've got all the foundation stops going up to 4 foot. And then on the right-hand side, you've got everything from 2 foot plus all the sort of the bits in between the two-thirds and mixtures and reeds and all that sort of things, and all the couplers over there. So it's all, you know, exactly as you need it. And, you know, on the further out you go, the louder the stops become, as it were. So we've got several 8-foot stops here on the grate. That's the quietest one, that's the next loudest one, that's the next loudest one, and that's the principal. Yeah, so you know how it's going to work like that. Pedal stops are at the bottom. Then the positive stops on the second row, obviously the Hauptwerk there, and the swell stops at the top. Here we of course have a pedal board with a swell pedal. And the swell pedal is very, very heavy, which I love because it's easy to control. And I'm sure you can see that in the background there, the swell shades opening and closing. And something that's rather strange in this organ, and it took quite a while to get used to when the organ was installed, is that the swell division is the lowest division of the pipes itself. Now, if you have a look over there, the way the swell shutters are opening, normally swell shutters open sideways. But here they've been designed, well, they squeak rather nicely. That's probably because of the high temperatures we've been having here. They open in a sort of upwards direction so that the sound sort of goes up into the church, up into the acoustic, and not just sort of to the sides into the acoustic. It's a rather clever effect down in the church, but it's a rather strange effect when you're sitting at the console, because normally a swell division is sort of at the top of the organ, far away, so you can judge the swell sound yourself while you're playing. It's quite easy to sort of imagine how it's going to sound down there. Here, the swell stops are very close to the organist. They're only about 2.5 meters away from me, and that's quite confusing when you're playing. You're not quite sure how loud it is down the church. So that takes a little bit of getting used to, but it comes with time. By the way, I forgot to mention there are 46 stops in this organ, divided between the manuals and pedals. 46 stops. It's a good, healthy organ. Something that caused quite a lot of discussion during the installation of the new organ was the position of the console, or more precisely, the direction of the console. Now, you just saw the window there, and the console is sitting here facing the window, and we have a monitor here so we can see what's going on down in the church. But it was also thought, well, maybe the console could be up there, look down into the church, everything works fine. But then they decided, no, the organist can sit here and play, and when the church choir is here singing, the choir fits perfectly in that space, and the organist doesn't need an extra conductor or an extra organist, and then he can conduct. They can do it, he can do it all by himself. The only problem with that is a west-facing window, which means there's an awful lot of sun shining through there, and that can sometimes sort of really get in the organist's eyes, which is a bit of a problem. There is, of course, a solution to this problem, and it's just basically a big black piece of wood. It blocks the organist's view to the window, or at least it blocks the sun from the window, but it blocks everything else. So, strange solution, but at least it works. Let's have a quick look at the stops. So we're going to start on this side, the left-hand side, where all the foundation stops are, like I said. Start up in the swell, where we have a normal 8-foot principal sound. Complete with its 4-foot principal. It's called a fugara here. That on its own is a rather nice, pleasant sound. We have an 8-foot stopped flute. With a 4-foot flute on top of that. Flutes. We have a 16-foot flute to give it a bit more beef down on the bottom there, which is rather cool. If I get all the 3 flutes going there, we've got a rather fat sound, and it's only the swell. Which also means, of course, if I add the 5th, when I'm playing a low chord with a 16-foot there, I get that nice 32-foot effect going. How does that work? Look at your acoustical properties and you can work that one out. Okay, we have a stringy sound. Which on its own is quite thin, which is why it has its sort of natural Celeste sound. It's actually called Celeste in German. Schwebung is the word there. Schwebung means sort of undulations. So those two together have that lovely stringy effect. And I don't know if you can hear it coming through on this microphone. I mix a little bit of this microphone into the sound. We've got the microphones down in the church picking up the organ as a whole, and I mix a little bit of this in so that you've got my fingers on the keys and things. And you can really hear here, you've got the C side of the organ and the C sharp side of the organ there. It's really rather sort of confusing when you're playing certain pieces and certain things. You hear some sounds there, and it takes a while to get used to, but that's half the fun of it. Okay, into the main manual, our great organ. Obviously we have a big fat principal, and that's one of the stops that I helped voice, as it were, and I said, yes, we need a big fat principal sound, so that's what we've got. There are 4 8-foot stops here on the great alone. We have a very sort of soft viola da gamba. Which might actually work a bit better as a solo stop. There's an 8-foot stopped flute. With a 4-foot flute on top. Some people in the comments a couple of videos ago asked me, when you're doing this sort of stuff and testing the stops, do you have little tunes in mind or do you just make it up? I just make it up. I know this organ, so I know what the stops sound like, so I know what I can get out of them. And I just sort of make up little things that I think make the stops sound rather nice. So it's purely improvised. Can I then repeat what I played? The answer to that is unfortunately no, because once I've played it, I've pretty much forgotten it. I can sort of play roughly what I played. As you can tell, when I'm going through the stops, I'm sort of using the same harmonies most of the time. So but I can't recreate it 100%. I would have to listen to the recording and go back and sort of scribble it down, and then I might be able to do it. Okay, there's another 8-foot flute here on the grate, and that's a harmonic flute, so one of those sort of with a little hole bored into the pipes in the middle so that it's producing overtones, and that's got a lovely fluty sound, almost like an orchestral flute. Cute, isn't it? All 3 of those flutes together, that's the 2 8-foots and the 4-foot flute, just in the grate, have a big, lovely sound. Rather lovely. Down into the positive division, we have a rather strange stop. It's called suavial, which is a name you've probably never come across in the organ world before, and it's a sort of a mix of a sort of a light principle with a bit of a fluty sound in there and a bit of a stringy sound as well, sort of all 8-foot characteristics stuck into one. On its own, it sounds like a light principal sound, a small diapason. But as soon as you mix it with the 4-foot principle, you realize how thin it really is. We have 2 flutes here, an 8 and a 4, stopped flutes, rather lovely. Right, down into the pedal. And the pedal features 3 16-foot stops, one of which is stolen from the swell division. And the swell's sort of divided up a little bit. You can take the swell bourdon down to the pedals independently, which is great. So if I couple the swell stops down, if I have my sort of 8-foot stringy sounds with the flute there, and the 16-foot bourdon from the swell. Swell shades closed. I've got an independent pedal, which is also swellable. And by putting the 5th in there and the pedals as well, I can make a little 32-foot effect. There are 2 normal 16-foot stops from the pedal, a stopped 16, and a principal bass, a huge open diapason. There's an 8 and a 4-foot sort of little thing going on there. Nothing that deserves a sort of independent demonstration, but something that should be seen on its own is the 32-foot stop, the Untersatz 32. And I want to show you that separately. Bet you've never seen anything like this before. These are the 32-foot stopped pipes of the pedal division. And they've been laid out horizontally because there's no room for them inside the organ. It's great because it doesn't matter where bass sounding pipes are in an organ. The sound travels through the church anyway. And to save space, they've just sort of laid them out at the back of the organ. It's rather dark here. I'm not sure if we can see this properly. But they're 16 feet long, this lowest one, 16 feet long. And of course, the stopper at the top stops it. So the the volume of the air is then 32 feet, as it were. And if you sort of wander back with me along these pipes, here they all are, and here you can see the mouths of the pipes, rather cute. So the air sort of comes in here, catches on that lip, just like on a recorder or a flute really, causes the air to start vibrating and makes the sound. There you are, simple as that. That is a rather ingenious 32-foot solution. Okay, on the right side, as I said before, we've got the higher stops and the reedy stops. And I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail about these stops because, well, the temperatures recently have been way sort of up in the almost at 40 degrees centigrade. And now, after a couple of rainy days, they're back down at like 20. So the reed stops are quite out of tune. So I'm only going to sort of demonstrate very briefly what they're like. But there's another couple of things here. Up in the swell division, there is, let me just build this up, a 2-foot stop. It's a 2-foot piccolo, so a 2-foot flute stop, but a rather nice mixture. So that's like the principal chorus. There's a 16-foot as well. That's just the swell chorus. That's pretty good, isn't it? There's an oboe that can be added to that. Which is a little bit on the untuned side. I'll get rid of that. Here's the harmonic trumpet, 8-foot. Very French sound in there. And there's a 16-foot basson as well to give it a real snarly French sound. And a squeaky swell again. Not bad, eh? Same thing here in the grate. Although here we have two different mixtures. There's a small mixture and a great mixture, a large and a small mixture. So it's called a mixture major and a mixture minor. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be Spanish, or maybe it's spelt wrong if it's going to be Spanish. It's also spelt wrong if it's going to be English. So I don't not really know what language that's supposed to be. Here's the smaller of the mixtures. It's actually the brighter one. And then the larger mixture, which is it's based on a lower stop size. When I say lower stop size, I mean lower sounding, 2 foot as opposed to 1 1/3. So it's a bigger sound, but it's a lower sound. Both of those together. Trumpet 8 foot, 16 foot principle there to give a big effect. No pedal stops at all. That's just one manual. There's a solo stop here called a cornet, and that's useful for French Baroque style music. It only starts on this A pipe, so there's nothing there until you get to here. Useful. Down on the positive, we have the same thing, but it's sort of split up. Here it's one stop, and here you can sort of make it up yourself. So I can sort of make myself a cornet. Or if I think that sounds too high, I can get rid of that one. Or if I think it sounds too fat, I can get rid of that. And so on and so on and so on. Quite a useful addition. And then there's a very, very high sounding mixture here. It's very shrill. It's called a scharf, which means spicy. And it's on a 1 foot basis. So the first pipes are like 1 foot long, tiny little things. And of course, in the heat of the last few days, slightly out of tune, as is the reed stop on the positive. It's a chalumeau, or clarinetty sound. On its own, not too bad. Let's add something to that, and you can hear how badly out of tune it is. It's fine down there. Onto the pedals then, very quickly. We have another stolen stop from up here in the swell division. The 16-foot basson can be taken down independently, which is a great effect if you don't have it here in the swell division, but it's there in the pedals for you. But there are 2 independent pedal reeds, a 16-foot posaune and an 8-foot trumpet, big pipes. Pretty big sound there. Now, should you find yourself on holiday in Germany in this area and you want to come and hear the organ live, well, ta-da, here's a concert, and you don't need to understand much German for this. 25th of August 2019 at 4 p.m. there is a concert celebrating 5 years of the organ in the church, and we have an organist, 2 trumpeters, and a soprano. So it's going to be a very sort of mixed concert. Well worth coming, I imagine. It only costs €12 to get in, which is not a lot of money, and all the money is going towards the organ fund, as it were, and of course, I'm assuming the musicians are being paid as well. But if you happen to be in the area, then do come along. It's going to be a rather good little concert. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. I'm going to say goodbye quickly from St. Peter here in Montabaur. And before I play a little piece of music, what I've done, I've just put a sort of tutti on because I don't want to change anyone's registrations. Maybe they've set things up for the concert already, so I don't want to mess around there. And yeah, we'll do that in a minute. So yeah, thanks for watching, and thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's all greatly appreciated. There are the links below to the various possibilities there. We have Steady and Patreon, and we also have PayPal Me if you want to donate something financially towards the channel. It's all greatly received, and it all goes towards the channel. So thank you very, very much for that. Yeah, that's it for now. Next week we'll be back in Herschbach. And what I wanted to do is go into sort of some basics of improvising. A lot of people are asking me about, like I said before, how to improvise at the organ. And I'm going to sort of do a little series of videos on how I go about doing it. So everyone does it differently, so I'm going to do it on how I do it. And to finish off today, I'm just going to improvise something loud on the organ here. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye-bye.